My mother-in-law is very keen for me to stick to her rules regarding marriage. I ended up canceling the wedding right in front of everyone. My name is Hannah, and I'm 30 years old. I work as a project manager at a tech company, and I'm about to marry Ryan, who I met on a dating app. Everything seemed perfect, at least until his mother got involved. Ryan is 2 years younger than me, and we instantly clicked. After dating for 2 years, we decided to get married. Ryan's father, Mr. Thompson, welcomed me with open arms when we first told his parents about our engagement. Ryan's dad was all smiles and gave his heartfelt congratulations. However, Ryan's mom, Carol, was a different story. She looked me up and down with a judging glare and didn't seem to be as warm as she could have been. The moment Ryan mentioned we had met online, her expression turned even more sour. She said that she didn't approve and that I came from a broken family. I thought this was inappropriate. I could feel the blood drain from my face as her words struck me like a slap in the face. My parents divorced when I was young, but that never made my family broken. "Mom, that's enough," Ryan said, his voice tight. His dad also tried to calm her, saying, "Come on, Carol, times have changed. Meeting online is normal these days." But Carol wouldn't budge. She looked at me as if I were some kind of invader. I forced a smile. I was trying not to show how hurt I felt. I thought I could win Carol over. Ryan loved me and I loved him. I tried visiting her more often, helping out with household chores whenever we went over for family dinners, and even bringing her small gifts. None of it worked. Carol was set on disliking me, and she didn't even try to hide it. She always had some passive-aggressive comment ready. You know, a real wife takes care of her husband at home. Ryan always stepped in to defend me, but it never seemed to stop her. Things got worse when we started planning the wedding. Carol insisted on being involved in every decision, from the flower arrangements to the seating chart. She wanted everything her way. Even though Ryan and I had our own vision for the ceremony, one afternoon while we were at her house, Carol announced we should go with the lily centerpieces. They're classic and elegant. I glanced at Ryan, and he gave me a small nod, encouraging me to speak. "Actually, we were thinking of using sunflowers," I said, smiling. "They're bright and cheerful, and they mean a lot to us." Carol frowned. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Sunflowers at a wedding? That sounds tacky," she scoffed. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my cool. Ryan squeezed my hand. Ryan's eyes were apologetic, but I could see he was frustrated too. I tried to reason with myself, thinking it's just flowers. It's not worth the fight. But it wasn't just the flowers. It was everything, every little detail that I wanted. I knew Carol would find a way to dismiss or undermine the situation. We were at boiling point 1 week before the wedding. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of the whole process. The day I picked out my wedding dress, my best friend Emily came with me, and to my surprise, Carol showed up unannounced. I tried to be polite, even though her presence made me uneasy. I'd fallen in love with a gorgeous lace mermaid dress. It hugged my body perfectly. When I stepped out of the dressing room, Emily gasped, "Hannah, you look stunning. This dress was made for you." I twirled in front of the mirror, feeling genuinely happy. But then Carol's voice cut through the moment. I was smiling, but it faltered. "What's wrong with it?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. Carol crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes at the dress. "It's too revealing. You're supposed to be a bride, not not this. It's vulgar." I blinked, stunned by her harshness. Emily opened her mouth to say something, but I shook my head, giving her a pleading look. I didn't want to create a scene, especially not here. I shook my head, giving her a pleading look. I didn't want to create a scene, especially not here. But Carol wasn't finished. I'd already spoken to the store manager. She said they have a more appropriate gown picked out for me. It had long sleeves and a high neck, which made it much more respectable. I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. This was my wedding day, and it was supposed to be about Ryan and me, about our love and our choices. I wanted to wear the dress that made me feel beautiful, not one chosen by someone else, who clearly disapproved of everything. I said, my voice shaking but firm, that I was going to wear this dress. Carol's face darkened. "You're making a mistake, Hannah. A real wife knows how to listen to her elders. If you can't even do that, how do you expect to keep a marriage together?" The words stung, but I wasn't going to back down. Ryan was furious when I told him what had happened. He called his mom that evening and I could hear the heated argument from the other room. He defended me, telling Carol that it was my choice, and if she couldn't respect that, then maybe she shouldn't. I felt a mix of emotions. I was relieved that Ryan had my back, but also guilty. I didn't want to be the reason for a rift in their family on the morning of the wedding. I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I wanted it to be a perfect day, but I couldn't shake the feeling that... Emily tried to reassure me as we got ready, saying, "Today is about you and Ryan. Don't let anyone else take that away from you." I nodded, trying to believe her words. Despite all the chaos leading up to it, the ceremony was beautiful. The sunflowers we chose looked stunning, and seeing Ryan standing at the altar made my heart swell for a moment. It felt like everything was going to be okay. We exchanged vows, and I could see tears in Ryan's eyes as he promised to love me forever. I felt a warmth spread through me, thinking that maybe, just maybe, we could. Finally, it was time to enjoy ourselves at the reception. Carol was wearing an elaborate gown that almost overshadowed mine. She grabbed the microphone and stood in front of the guests. Her smile was too wide and too forced. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice echoing through the room. "Thank you all for being here today to celebrate this union. As Ryan's mother, I just want to say a few words." I exchanged a nervous glance with Ryan, who looked equally uneasy. Carol continued, "I've always believed that marriage is about compromise and discipline. As Hannah's new mother-in, I'll make sure she learns how to take care of my son. After all, a wife's duty is to her husband." A few people laughed awkwardly, but most just stared, unsure if she was serious. I felt my face flush with anger. This was supposed to be our day, and she was making it all about her outdated beliefs. I glanced at Ryan, expecting him to step in and say something. I wanted to stop her, but he just sat there looking embarrassed. His eyes were glued to the floor. Carol wasn't done. She said that a wife should wake up early, clean the house, prepare meals, and make sure her husband is always comfortable. That's what makes a successful marriage. I could see the looks of discomfort on the faces of our friends and family. Even Mr. Thompson looked mortified. His face was buried in his hands. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up. My heart was pounding. "Carol," I said, my voice carrying through the room. The guests turned to look at me. Their eyes were wide. "This is not your wedding. This is mine and Ryan's. I will not be treated like this." I could feel the tension in the room. The suspense was thick. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. Carol looked taken aback. Her eyes narrowed. "Hannah, sit down," she hissed. "You're making a scene." I shook my head. I was holding back the anger I had been holding. I've been putting up with this for so long. It's time to break free. "Carol, you're the one making a scene. You've tried to control every aspect of this wedding, and I've had enough. I love Ryan, but I will not be treated as less just because I don't fit your outdated idea of what a wife should be." Ryan finally stood up. His face was pale. He looked at me, then at his mother. "Mom, you need to stop," he said. "This is our day. If you can't support us, then maybe you should." Carol looked like she'd just been slapped. She opened her mouth to say something, but Mr. Thompson stood up, placed a hand on her shoulder, and said, quietly, "You've done enough for a moment." I thought she might argue, but then she closed her mouth, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. She turned on her heel and walked out, with Mr. Thompson following behind her. I let out a breath. I hadn't realized I was holding my entire body. The room was still for a moment, then Emily started clapping. The guests joined in, and the tension slowly melted away. Ryan walked over to me and wrapped his arms around me. "I'm so sorry, Hannah," he whispered. I looked up at him, tears welling up in my eyes. "Just promise me we'll always stand up for each other." He nodded, his eyes full of emotion. The rest of the evening went by in a blur. There was laughter and so much. I felt a new sense of love and freedom. I realized that this was what mattered, Ryan and me standing together, no matter what. I also knew that Carol's disapproval wouldn't go away, but I knew we could face it together. As the night came to a close, Ryan and I shared a quiet moment on the dance floor. The lights dimmed and the music softened. He looked down at me, his eyes filled with love. "I'm sorry about everything," he said again. I shook my head and rested my head on his chest. "We got through it," I whispered. "That's all that matters." And in that moment, I knew it was true. No matter what Carol or anyone else thought, we had each other. And that was enough. The days following the wedding were a mix of, I felt a sense of freedom, but also an underlying tension about what would happen next. Ryan assured me that he would handle it, and I trusted him. He wanted to create boundaries with his mother, and I knew that wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary for us to have a healthy relationship. One evening, a few weeks after the wedding, Ryan received a call from his mother. He put it on speakerphone. I could hear the tension in her voice as she spoke. Ryan, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. She began in an uncharacteristically soft voice. I need you to respect that. There was a pause, and then Carol sighed. I'll try, she said. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start. For now, that was enough. As Ryan hung up, he turned to me. His eyes were filled with hope. We're going to be okay, he said. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. Yes, we are, I replied. For the first time in a long time, I truly believed it.